Now, I think this helps us realize that if we want to find the sweetness in the prayer, okay, our focus should not be primarily on the physical reality of the prayer, which is important. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli." Pray as you have seen me pray. Why is this? Because that's how we should pray. Why is this? Because if we pray in the manner in which the Prophet ﷺ prayed, you will find a huge difference in your salah. And this is the factor number one in having sweetness in salah. Keep that in mind. That's number one. Okay, now we got into the main topic or the main subject of this talk. You want to find the sweetness of salah, learn how the Prophet ﷺ prayed and exactly pray just like that. That's number one. Now, where do we get this from? We get this from the fact that Allah is the all-wise. Allah is Al-Hakim. What does wise mean? In Arabic, Al-Hakim means the one who doesn't do things for no reason. The one who doesn't legislate things for no reason. Everything in Islam is carefully chosen by Allah. Everything. The smallest thing in Islam that you might think is trivial, unimportant, insignificant, has a reason, or there's a reason that Allah made it that way. And it has an impact that you should expect from it. So many times people say, what difference does it make to put your hands here or here, whether to say Allahu Akbar, put your hands up, or whether you put your hands on your knees as you make ruku', okay, left, right, center, whatever you want to put, whatever you want. What difference does it make? I'm just making salah. Well, yes, ultimately you're making salah, but everything the Prophet ﷺ did in the prayer has significance. Allah says in Surah Al-A'raf, أَلَا لَهُ الْخَلْقُ وَالْأَمْرُ. To Allah belong the creation, and to Allah belong the legislation. Two things, creation, legislation. Allah created us in a certain format, physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, even socially, and He sent down a way of life, a system that is completely compatible with our creation. Completely compatible with our creation. Just like a lock and its key. Exactly. You cannot open that lock except with this key. Even if you get a key that is similar, but it's slightly different. Slightly different. And even you might sometimes be unable to tell the difference between both keys. One of them would open the lock and one would not. That's exactly how Islam works with our human nature. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He describes the Prophet ﷺ, He said, لَوْ يُطِيعُكُمْ فِي كَثِيرٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْرِ لَعَنِتُّمْ. If the Prophet ﷺ were to obey you, if he were to follow your desires and your preferences, you would put yourselves in extreme hardship. SubhanAllah, even in your seeking ease, you will ultimately put yourself in hardship. Well, the financial crisis in the world, the economic crisis in the world is a clear example. People wanted ease. People wanted lack of control in terms of in their financial system. This is why riba is halal for them, interest. A lot of the manipulation that is taking place in the financial world and economic world, okay, people are seeking ease. They want more money, they want more affluence, they want more control over the world. But ultimately, what did they do? They made it even hard for themselves. Okay, so that's exactly what this verse is saying. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Islam in all its details compatible to your nature. Exactly. There's a perfect match. If you miss out on any point, it's going to make a difference. It is going to make a difference. So even the place or where you place your hands in salah, okay, it makes a difference. Yes, your prayer is still valid, but it does make a difference. There's a reason. Allah does not legislate anything, even if it's tiny, minute things, except for a reason. There's something. Allah doesn't do things randomly. Okay? So, the way the Prophet ﷺ prayed is one excellent way to help you reach your Khushoo'. But that could take you probably halfway through. What could bring about the sweetness of the prayer if you understand the concept of khushu'. Let me take some definitions. How do you define khushu'? You might say humility. I understand. I need you to explain more. No general words. Who knows, how do you define khushu' to yourself? That's a word we always use. How do you define khushu'? Concentration is not exactly khushu'. It leads to khushu'. Just one second. Sincerity is not khushu' in itself. It's strongly related, but it's not khushu'. Humbleness. Yes, humbleness is part of khushu'. It's a great part of khushu'. Humbleness. But anyone can dig a bit deeper? When you are at ease, it's around the same. It's around the same level. I need something deeper.
When heart's connected to Allah.
Excellent. Did you hear that? When the heart is connected to Allah. That's the essence of khushu'. That's the secret of Salah. Honestly, that's the secret of Salah. When the heart is connected to Allah in the prayer, that's khushu'. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ra'd, Allah says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَطْمَئِنُّ قُلُوبُهُمْ بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Those who have believed and their hearts find comfort, tranquility in the mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the remembrance of Allah. Indeed, with the remembrance of Allah, I would paraphrase it now, with awareness of Allah, with connection with Allah, the hearts are at ease and are in a state of tranquility. Okay? So that's excellent. Very good point. That's where khushu' comes from. Connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. You remember the question that I asked, who finds khushu', who experiences khushu' and salah? Let me ask you, a general question, it's not related to salah. Who experiences khushu' on a daily basis? Apart from salah. That might be a surprise to you. But who experiences khushu' on a daily basis? Experience it on a daily basis. No, I'm saying khushu'. Incorporating the meanings you all mentioned.
Not in Salah, you said.
Huh?
You said not in Salah.
Yes, outside the prayer. Okay, do you know who experiences khushu' most these days? Lovers. Lovers experience khushu'. What did the brother say khushu' is? Essence of khushu'? Connection to Allah. What do lovers have? Connection to their beloved ones. What happens? They develop this focus. Yeah? This focus about their love, of the person they love. And have you ever dealt with someone, let me say, a young man who loves a woman? Let's go a bit deeper into human nature because it helps us understand what khushu' is. You know, many times there's a problem with the way we understand or we relate to our deen, by the way. You can find someone who's practicing, prays the five daily prayers in the masjid, reads a lot of Quran, could be hafiz as well. Yeah? Excellent, like a perfect Muslim. Go and see him in the market, cheats, lies, and does all sorts of bad things. Schizophrenic, 2 personalities. And you think that's uncommon? Very common, all around the Muslim world. All around the Muslim world. That's one of our biggest problems. Okay, back to the lover. Let me ask the question. Who has ever experienced someone, don't tell me about yourself, but about someone. Have you ever seen a lover, someone who's truly in love? Who hasn't seen someone in love? Could you ever have a proper conversation with that person? Impossible. Impossible. Because whatever you talk about, they're going to always gravitate to the person they love. Everything. Yeah? They might love like a girl, and you talk to them about cars. You talk to them about football. Okay? You start talking about football, about this team, that team, Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, etc. Okay? And then all of a sudden, this person can find a connection in your conversation and bring it back to the girl they love. You can never hold a proper conversation with them. What is this? It's khushuu'. It's devotion, it's connection. It's connection. That's what we need to have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even better than that. By the way, that's not my own analogy. That's Ibn al-Qayyim's analogy. Ibn al-Qayyim uses that analogy. He says when you see someone in love, you can never talk to them. You can never have a proper conversation with them. They would always find a connection to the person they love, and they will bring back the conversation to that point. That's their reference point. That's where they live. That's where the heart is. That's where the khushuu' is. That's it. And when they think about their love, there's extreme focus. Whatever you talk to them about, they're not interested. And this is why they bring it back to their love. If it has to do with the person they love, they're all ears and eyes. And they listen to you, they focus and everything. That's khushuu'. And when they think about their love, how do they look like? Huh? As if they're in this ocean of dreams, and they're in a different world. You see? It's that khushuu'. It's that khushuu'. It's there, the whole faculties are in one direction. That's what khushuu' is. And that's what we need to do when it comes to our prayer with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now, how can we develop khushuu'? We said pray as the Prophet ﷺ prayed. That's number one. Keep it in mind. I'll give you about 4 or 5 points, quite easy. But I'm just going around them, okay, jumping left and right to give you a different taste about each of these points. Then all what you need to remember is these 4 or 5 points done. Simple. How we develop khushuu'? Now, based on the lover's analogy. How do we develop khushuu'?
By understanding what the lover is saying, or the person in love is saying, or whatever you're listening to.
That's step number 2. Excellent. That's step number 2. I want step number 1.
What the lover's interests.
Huh?
What the lover is interested in. What makes the lover happy.
Be in love.
That could be number 2, number 3. Okay?
Focus.
Now, focus is a result. What did you say?
Be in love.
Be in love. Just be in love with Allah. Be in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Take this as a general rule, and if your handwriting is good, okay, hang it on your wall. Whatever you love and you are attached to will be on your mind in the prayer. Try it out. Now I'm gonna just do an exercise with you. You don't keep it to yourself, okay? But it will help you a lot. See how you pray. Now in the Maghrib prayer, as we were praying, or let me say the Asr prayer, because Maghrib, the loud prayers sometimes could help you concentrate because the Imam recites loud. Asr prayer. When you prayed Asr today, what was in your mind? When you prayed Asr today. Even if you have a short memory, it's been less than 2 hours. So you should be.
Do you want an honest answer?
No, keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. But it helps you understand, okay, the issue of khushuu'. What was on your mind when you prayed Asr today? People who are usually in business and trade, they mainly think about their business. If a guy is in love or a girl is in love, they would be thinking about the person they love. If someone loves their job so much, or their field of study so much, they would be thinking about that. If someone loves themselves so much, they'll be thinking about themselves. So what you mainly think about in the prayer, okay, that's your ultimate love. Truly, your ultimate love. So if it's not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you need to recheck your heart. There's something you need to do with your heart. Okay, that's the good point. You need to be in love in order to have khushu' and salah. So you need to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the challenge. How do we love Allah? How do we love Allah? Okay, let me tell you about, there's a person, his name is Walid. Walid. He lives in Jordan, my country. Walid lives in an area called Jabal al-Nasr. Okay, it's like a hilly area. They call it Jabal al-Nasr. Okay? Let me ask you a question. Out of the blue, do you love Walid? Do you hate Walid? Why don't you love Walid? But I do. You see, how do you expect yourself to love someone you don't know? How do you expect to love someone you don't know? If you don't know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how do you think you will love Him? You might think you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but is this the case? Is this the case? We said, going back to the lover's analogy, very, very practical by the way. Okay, do you think someone, and there's an interesting thing, it's like an upward spiral. When you love someone, okay, you become motivated to learn more about them. The more you learn about them, the more you love them. The more you love them, the more you are curious to know more about them. It's an upward spiral. That's exactly the case with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's exactly the case. How do you expect to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without knowing Him? A lot of us think, no, let me put this to the test. How do you think we can know Allah? Now let's say, okay, one day you decided, I want to know more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's the first thing that goes through your mind? Sorry? No, be specific. I know it's through the Prophet, but exactly tell me, what would you go, if you had something, okay, you said, okay, today I'll do something, I want to know more about Allah today. By 8 o'clock today, I want to know something about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, something significant. Quran? Be more specific. Looking around you. Research and reading what?
99 names.
Reading the 99 names.
Within ourselves.
Reading what?
Within ourselves.
Within ourselves. Okay. Ask. Okay. General. Very general. Ask someone. Okay. The most common answer that I got when I asked this question was, learn the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah? Which is a good idea, but who has read the 99 names of Allah? Not necessarily all of them. The majority of them, we're familiar with them. But how much did you learn from them? You know, when you take the names and attributes of Allah out of their context, you can hardly get anything from them. And that's why some people say, okay, let's teach the names and attributes of Allah. Let's teach the names of Allah. That's the 90 names of Allah. This course is about the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, they take a name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ar-Rahim. They start explaining it. They try to put some context to it. But most of the time it doesn't work. Most of the time it doesn't work. And that's the difficulty in teaching the names and attributes of Allah. Not the rules pertaining to them, but their meanings and their implications. You cannot. You need to teach these names in real life situations. Let's say someone is in trouble. You start helping them, okay, go through their problem and linking everything you do towards the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only then your heart will start be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only then. Okay? Reading through the Quran is a good experience, but most of us don't do enough contemplation, so this is why we don't get enough. Reading through the world, most of us do it, but we don't do it the right way. Yeah, we start, instead of saying, okay, linking everything or tracing everything back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instead of doing that, okay, we get taken by the beauty of the creation of Allah and we stop halfway. We don't carry on. So how do we get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There's no one thing. You need to do all of these things together. First of all, you need, if you want to know how much you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you want to know how much you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay? Take this example. And that's a friend of mine as well who studied in Germany for about 8 years. His mother could not read or write. She was illiterate. At that time, there was no internet, there were no mobile phones. The only way of communication was sending letters. He would send a letter every month, one letter every month. His mother could not read or write. When she got the first letter, she went to her neighbor, her friend. She asked her to read the letter for her. She read the letter and she was in tears. That's his son. And this specific son had a special place in her heart, subhanAllah. Second month, she did the same thing. Third month, she went and that lady wasn't in the country, was out of town. So that day she didn't have anyone to read for her. Her other sons were in school. So she was frustrated for most of the day. Until one of her sons came back from school, she said, read that for me, please. But she was drained at that time, emotionally. When she had this experience, she said, I'll make sure this never happens again. What did she do? She taught herself how to read and write. She literally learned how to read and write just to read the letters coming from her son. So she could read and write. Now the question is, do you think she loves her son? How much? She loves her sons, as you say, she loves her son to bits. Yeah. By the way, I started to pick up the northern Yorkshire accent. She loves her son to bits. Now my question, this woman used to, after she could read, and even before she could read, she always had these letters in front of her. She would hug the letters, look at them, and after she learnt reading, she would read them every day. Now my question, this woman loves her son so much, this is why she would read his letters every day. My question is, how often do you read the letters of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How often do you read the book of Allah? When last did you read the Quran? How often do you do it? Do you feel the attachment as you read the Quran? That's the question. Now you're putting your feelings to the test. A lot of, many times we like to, be in favor of ourselves, not face the reality. But with a lot of analogy, we'll be shocked at what we do. Now this woman obviously is a human being and she loves her son so much, and that's why she would read his letters every day, and that's why she took the pains. For all her life she never bothered learning how to read or write, but she learned how to read just because of her son, she loves her son. Now how much do you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Don't tell me, but keep the answer to yourself based on how often you read the Quran. That's it. Simple. Now there's another woman. Let me see, what books do you have here? Okay, who has ever read the series on Iman by Dr. Umar al-Ashqar? What is it called? It's translated into English. What is it called? Islamic Creed series. 6 or 7 books. 6. Belief in Allah, belief in the last day, belief in the angels. 6 articles of faith. Okay. It's a very famous book, even in English and Arabic and Spanish and French and many languages. By Dr. Umar al-Ashqar. Okay. There was a woman, and she lives in Jordan as well, in Amman. She was 70 years old. She was illiterate, could not read or write. Yeah. She did a very good job, mashallah, bringing up her sons and daughters in the best way. She has, obviously at that age, no responsibilities. She would listen to the Quran so often. She loves the Quran. She would listen to the Quran so often. And then she just said, why don't I take it a step further? So she said, I want to look at the Quran and just be able to see the word Allah. I want to recognize this word. So she asks her grandson, please teach me how you write Allah. He taught her. So she would listen to the Quran, listen to a recitation on tape, and she would hold the mushaf and she would follow the word Allah. As he says it, she follows. She says, he's here, he's here, he's here. That's it. That's how much she was attached to the Quran. Do you think this woman loves Allah so much? Apparently. Wait until you find out. She liked the fact that she could trace or follow the reciter with the word Allah, Allah. She wanted to learn more. So she asked her grandson to teach her the alphabet. She started. How old was she? 70. She started learning alif, ba, ta, tha. Then she learned how to connect them. Slowly, she could start follow the reciter as he read Quran. She was following him. Then she could read by herself. At the age of 75, she memorized the Quran. A lot of our younger brothers and sisters say, I'm too old now. I'm 25. How can I memorize Quran? If I were 6, 7 years old, I would have fresh memory and I would memorize. But now I'm old. I'm 30. I'm 40. I'm 50. This woman was 70 when she started. At the age of 75, she memorized the whole Quran. She passed away, may Allah have mercy on her. She is the mother of 2 of the greatest scholars of our time. The author of the series I told you about, the 6 books, and his older brother, Muhammad al-Ashqar, Umar al-Ashqar, Muhammad al-Ashqar. One of them passed away 3 years ago. Second one passed away a couple of months ago. May Allah have mercy on him. Okay. Where am I trying to get? I know you might say, what does this have to do with Khushoo'? It all links in, okay? I'll take you to a statement to the Shaykh Abdul Rahman al-Sa'di. Shaykh Abdul Rahman al-Sa'di is the teacher or the Shaykh of Ibn Uthaymeen. And he's the author of the famous short tafsir of the Quran, Taysir al-Karim al-Rahman. It's called Taysir al-Karim al-Rahman. Has it been translated into English? Not yet. It's beautiful, wonderful explanation and tafsir on the Quran. It's concise, but very deep at the same time. The Shaykh has a book, it's called Al-Mawahib al-Rabbaniyya. In his book he says, Khushoo', for people who think Khushoo' is a matter of Salah, they don't understand what Khushoo' is. Khushoo' is a continuous state of mind. He says if you want Khushoo' in Salah, you need to have it outside Salah. You need to have it outside Salah. Now, one of the contemporary dua, famous one, mashallah, and Allah has given him a beautiful way to preach, Shaykh Salih al-Maghamsi. Shaykh Salih al-Maghamsi has a beautiful statement, and when I listened to that statement, it just shook me, and it kept me in a state of shock for a couple of days. He says, Salah is a privilege. In Salah, you are standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are standing in the presence of Allah. And that's a privilege and honor that Allah doesn't give to anyone. And on top of this, Khushoo' is the pinnacle. So Allah would not give it to someone who contradicts the meaning of salah in his life. So he says, if you want khushu', you need to have khushu' in your transactions. Khushu' in the way you treat your brothers and sisters, your parents, and even everyone. You need khushu' in doing your job. If you walk in late and you leave early, and if you waste your time in work and you're getting paid for it, you don't have khushu'. It's almost impossible for you to find khushu' in salah. We thought it was irrelevant. It's all connected. It's all connected. Remember this. You will never have khushu' in salah unless you have it in all aspects of your life. This is why I like the brother's answer when he said connection to Allah. You're not a machine, okay? It's not like an internet connection, okay? Outside the masjid, you're disconnected, no internet access. And in the masjid, okay, go and check Wi-Fi connections and connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't work like that. We're not a machine. Humans have this tendency, it's our fitrah, to consistency. You are consistent. And Allah says, مَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِرَجُلٍ مِّن قَلْبَيْنِ فِي جَوْفِهِ. Allah did not put two hearts to anyone in his chest. You don't have two hearts. You can't have two different orientations. Ultimately, you have to have one. You might have conflict, an inner conflict for a while, but ultimately you will reach one. Just like as Mu'adh ibn Jabal said, hearts are different types. One that is completely saturated with good orientations, noble orientations. And that's the heart that has light in it. And there's a heart that is completely saturated with evil orientations. And there's a heart in the middle. And nafs al-lawama, in the middle. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's there. He says, وَقَلْبٌ تَمُدُّهُ مَادَّتَانِ مَادَّةُ إِيمَانٍ وَمَادَّةُ كُفْرٍ. A heart that has two elements, iman and kufr. He says, فَهُوَ لِمَنْ غَلَبَ مِنْهُمَا. Ultimately, one of them is going to take over. So you will have this inner conflict, but ultimately you will end up either here or there. But you can't be two people. So you can't be connected to Allah in the masjid and disconnected. So be sure someone who prays the 5 daily prayers in the masjid, reads Quran, and is excellent, seems to be excellent Muslim. You deal with him, he lies, cheats, disrespects others, etc. Be sure that's the same thing with salah, same thing with fasting. It has no essence. It's just a facade. It's a shell, empty shell. So you need to have khushu' in salah. What do? You need to develop this connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. It's simple. It falls in place. Just as the Prophet, as I said, the Prophet ﷺ would not tell the companions, okay, do 1, 2, 3, you'll have khushu' in salah. He didn't say, okay, do this and you will get that. No. He built a frame. And that's what Aisha said. Aisha radiallahu anha said, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first said, don't drink alcohol, don't commit zina, they would have said, no, we won't do that. But she said, halal and haram were not revealed until later on. To build that frame first. Build that frame. Okay? Believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Understand what you're here for. What does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be in this world? What does it mean? What's the point behind this? Understand more about Allah. Get to love Him. Get to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more. Then, when the Prophet ﷺ, or when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't drink alcohol, you say, absolutely, no problem. And that's exactly what the companions did. So it's not about instructions, it's about, we're human beings, we're not machines. You program that machine just like a computer and that's it. No, it doesn't work like that. We are humans. So if you want to have khushu', you need to, guess what? Change your life. You need to align your life behind salah. If you don't do that, khushu' will be a far-fetched dream, a pie in the sky. You can't have khushu'. I'm telling you, if you don't align your life behind salah, if you don't align your life behind love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and decide to be a true Muslim, a true believer, you can never have khushu'. You can just dream about it. And have a good time.